with hardly a moment to take a deep breath, let alone stay deeply connected to the community that had given me my start. Now that I have the time to step back and reflect on what helped me succeed, I've shifted my attention towards sharing the lessons I've learned and giving back to the community that launched my career. Nowadays, the landscape is more congested and competitive than ever. Even innovative, purpose-driven brands that kick ass on social media must go the extra mile to stand out against others like them, offering specialized products that meet the needs of conscientious, sophisticated audiences. Facing increasing demands for authenticity, transparency, and quality, today's makers and entrepreneurs are driven to redefine excellence. They're fueled by a passion for their product, an entrepreneurial fire, and a desire to build a better world, all while meeting their own standards for self-fulfillment along the way. I am living proof that success is possible, despite the remarkably high bar that's been set. And with the benefit of the know-how that took me over 7 years to amass, I'm offering this book as a springboard to supermakers like you. I've put it all in this audiobook, from my days hand-pouring deodorant in the kitchen to heading up a 150-employee company. This book contains not just my own story, but all the lessons I've learned along the way. My hope is that it will help you bypass years of toil or self-doubt so you too can embrace and become the supermaker you are. Part 1. Make it yours. Perfect your product and share your passion. Chapter 1. Don't quit the quest. Seek out your thing. You'll know when you've found it. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 31 years old, 8 months pregnant, in a wonderful but still very new relationship, and working a job that didn't suit me. Mostly, I was in a rush to figure out who I was, and quickly, before beginning my new, unexpected role of mother. So there I was, stirring up my first batch of deodorant in the kitchen of my tiny rental in Portland. From the moment I started making, that kitchen was a disaster. The oils and butters gunked up every surface, and the sink was a few days away from being completely clogged. There were crumpled up papers of discarded recipes and notes littered across the counter. Essential oils and samples of my latest test batches cluttered every inch of surface space available, alongside my jars of homemade kombucha and hot sauce. My feet ached from standing, and I was already tired after long days at my full-time job. As I stirred, bigger questions swirled around my head. Am I ready to be a mother? Should I stay in this job? Will we have enough money? And an old familiar one, what's my purpose? But something about the process of making put my world in order, even as it sent my kitchen into disarray. Only one thing was certain: the very act of creating, leaning over my kitchen stove, mixing the butters and powders and essential oils, pouring the mixture carefully into little mason jars, lit me up like nothing else ever had before. I was not one of those kids who always knew she was a writer or a musician or a doctor or an artist. I spent years thinking, I don't know what my passion is, or simply, I don't have a passion. I was searching for it, but I also didn't know where to look. I kept trying to figure out where I belonged, time and again, working odd jobs, moving from one city to another, enrolling in classes, only to find myself at a lot of dead ends. In that Portland kitchen, I was lucky enough to discover something, and once I did, I kept at it relentlessly. Perhaps not surprisingly, I didn't set out with deodorant as my destination. I grew up in a tiny Bavarian tourist town in Michigan, population fewer than 5,000, where you could, and still can, dial 1-800-FUN-TOWN to call the Chamber of Commerce. My dad worked as an engineer for General Motors, and my mom stayed home to raise me and my older brother, Jason. My family has always been close and very supportive, and to this day we talk regularly, though I wouldn't say that we shared a lot of deep, emotional conversations growing up. Ours was a relatively reserved household, where we were more likely to talk about local news and the weather than our inner feelings or aspirations. I count myself as very fortunate to have experienced a childhood of freedom in the company of a loving family. I spent many hours playing with my best friends, 2 girls who lived down the street, riding bikes around the neighborhood, and exploring the woods, which we called Wonderland. We'd play in the creeks and catch crawfish, climb trees and pick flowers. We spent whole afternoons in our treehouse, inventing stories and imagining other worlds. On weekends, my parents, my brother, and I would visit my grandparents in northern Michigan. They lived on a lake where we'd fish in summer and play on the ice in winter.